Friends, I am Upendra Kaul, Chairman Batra Heart Center and Dean Academics and Research, Batra Hospital and Medical Research Center, New Delhi. Today we are going to talk on how to choose the appropriate antihypertensive medication based upon patient's comorbidity. As you know, hypertension is a very significant public health problem all over the world, and that includes developed economies as well as developing countries. The WHO report of 2002 stated that the cardiovascular diseases would assume the position of the largest cause of death and disability by 2020 in India. At present, we have approximately 2 million patients, and it is predicted that by the year 2020, we would have about 2.6 million Indians who would die of coronary artery disease, which is a very, very alarming figure. About half of these deaths are assumed to occur in young and middle-aged individuals, that is between the ages of 30 and 70 years of age. This increasing prevalence of cardiovascular risk factor, especially hypertension, high cholesterol levels, that is dyslipidemia, diabetes, obesity and overweight, physical inactivity, tobacco use, is actually contributing to the growth of increasing burden of cardiovascular diseases. Hypertension is the leading risk factor for death and disability globally and accounts for about 9.5 million deaths and 7% of disability adjusted life years, which is also called DALYs, in the year 2010, and it is significantly more in 2017. It is also associated with enormous social, societal developments and economic costs. It is time that we effectively address the problem of hypertension in our country. The prevalence of hypertension in adults has been dramatically increasing in the last 30 years, from about 5% to around 30 to 40% in the urban areas and 12 to 17% in the rural areas. The number of individuals with hypertension in India was estimated to be 118 million in 2000, and it is estimated that by the year of 2025 would have around 215 million patients with hypertension. If we look at a region specific, that is urban and rural part of North, East, West and South India, systematic review and meta-analysis of the data from 1950 to 2013 reveal that the overall prevalence of hypertension was around 30% in the rural areas and about 35% in the urban areas. So this was the prevalence in 2013, but according to many studies, this is an underestimation, and in the metropolitan cities, according to some estimates, including some of the studies done by me in this area, the prevalence has been around 35 to 40% also. So the regional estimates of the prevalence of hypertension in urban areas has been variable and varies from 28% to about 40% depending upon the region, whether it is north, east, west, with some regional differences. But it is a major problem. In every region, it is at least 28 to 30%. Blood pressures which we label as pre-hypertension, that means blood pressure between 130 and 140 and between 80 and 89, also increase the likelihood of developing hypertension, because it has been shown that most of these people, by the age they reach 65, they become hypertensive. And in a recent study in about 650 people which were aged more than 20 years, revealed that more than half the subjects who had hypertension and became hypertensive. Trends over the last 2 decades suggest that the prevalence of hypertension, if we take the definition of 140 systolic and 90 diastolic as the cutoff in the urban areas, has stabilized to around 25 to 30%. However, it has increased in rural areas from 15 to 25%. The prevalence of hypertension is increasing more rapidly in the Indian rural population, and there seems to be an urban-rural convergence in hypertension prevalence. That means that the prevalence of hypertension is steadily increasing in the rural areas, whereas in the urban areas it has sort of reached a plateau. The risk factors for hypertension in our country are increasing age, body mass index, smoking or consuming tobacco in any form, diabetes, excessive salt intake, alcohol consumption, physical inactivity, waist-hip ratio which is high, and central obesity, that is waist circumference more than 90 centimeters in men and more than 80 centimeters in women, diabetes or impaired glucose tolerance, low intake of vegetables and fruits, and high consumption of dietary fat. Now, the treatment of hypertension according to the Joint National Commission 8 recommendations is that in general population below the age of 60 years, the blood pressure target should be less than 140 by 90, and in general population more than 60 years of age, the BP target should be less than 150 by 90. Among patients who are more than 18 years of age but have chronic kidney disease and diabetes, the blood pressure goals should be again less than 140 by 90. We usually, according to these criteria and these guidelines, initiate the therapy with a diuretic, usually a thiazide diuretic, calcium channel blocker, angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitor, that is ACE inhibitor, or ARB, that is angiotensin receptor blocker, in general in the non-black population, including those with diabetes. It was recommended to initiate a thiazide type diuretic or calcium channel blocker in general black population, including those with diabetes. In those patients aged more than 80 years with chronic kidney disease, initiate or add on an ACE inhibitor or ARB to improve kidney outcomes irrespective of their color, race, or diabetic status. The ASH or ISH recommendations are that in general the blood pressure goal should be less than 140 by 90 millimeters, and this includes patients with diabetes and chronic kidney disease. In subjects more than 80 years of age, blood pressure target should be less than 150 by 90 millimeters mercury. If these patients have chronic kidney disease or diabetes less than 140 by 90 millimeters mercury, it can be considered as the target blood pressure. Among non-black patients less than 60 years of age, initiate treatment with ARB or ACE inhibitor if need be to achieve the blood pressure to less than 140 by 90 millimeters, and add calcium channel blockers or a thiazide diuretic, and if the need still exists, add the combination of calcium channel blocker with an ACE inhibitor or ARB and a thiazide diuretic, that means use all the three. Among non-black patients more than 60 years of age, initiate calcium channel blockers or thiazide diuretic. If needed to achieve blood pressure less than 140 by 90, add ARB or ACE inhibitor. If still the blood pressure does not come to the target, add a combination of calcium channel blocker, ACE inhibitor or ARB, and add thiazide diuretic. Among blacks, initiate calcium channel blockers or thiazide diuretic. If needed to achieve blood pressure less than 140 by 90, add an ARB or ACE inhibitor. If still needed, add combination of calcium channel blocker plus ACE inhibitor or ARB plus thiazide diuretic. Among patients with diabetes, initiate treatment always with ARB or ACE inhibitor. In black patients, it is acceptable to start with a calcium channel blocker or thiazide. Among those with chronic kidney disease, initiate treatment with ARB or ACE inhibitor. The Indian guidelines on hypertension, that is IGH 3 recommendations, are a relatively less aggressive approach as compared to the 2007 guidelines. Towards achieving lower target blood pressure is a reasonable goal. The blood pressure goal should be less than 140/90 in the young and middle aged, and in diabetes blood pressure lowering should be to around 140/80 millimeters. That is the recommendation. In Indians who have survived a stroke, a blood pressure target has been recommended to be less than or around 130/85. In elderly patients, blood pressure target of around 140 to 145/90 is recommended. 5 classes of drugs are recommended as first line treatment for stage 1 or stage 2 hypertension. ACE inhibitors, ARBs, calcium channel blockers, diuretics and newer beta blockers. Suboptimal hypertension management. This is very important because the cross-sectional studies have conducted across different regions of India. They all point towards suboptimal blood pressure control in the country. It is estimated that only 1/10 of the rural and 1/5 of the urban hypertensive population who is taking medication is still the blood pressure is not properly controlled and is under controlled. A representative population based cross-sectional survey among participants from epidemiologically transitioning rural and urban areas of north, that is Sonipat, Haryana, and south Vishakhapatnam, Andhra Pradesh in India found the management of hypertension to be suboptimal. The control rates were higher for women as compared to men, 26% versus about 16%. Younger age, male gender, urban residents, less education, depression, high waist circumference, current tobacco and alcohol use have been linked to poor control of hypertension. According to a repeat cross-sectional study of the changes in hypertension prevalence, awareness, treatment and control rates over 20 years in National Capital Region, there has been no improvement in the management and control rates. Well, hypertension is a major risk factor for cardiovascular disease. Blood pressure is a major determinant of cardiovascular disease in various populations and settings. Most population-based studies confirm that hypertension heightens an individual's risk of various cardiovascular consequences by nearly 2 to 3 times. There is a robust association between blood pressure and subsequent atherosclerotic events. Hypertension is a major risk factor for cardiovascular morbidity and mortality. Hypertension more than doubles the risk of coronary heart disease, including acute MI and sudden death, and more than triples the risk of congestive heart failure and strokes. Prehypertension is also associated with increased risk of myocardial infarction and coronary artery disease as compared to normotensives. The risk of clinical events associated with hypertension is not only determined by blood pressure, but also by the presence of target organ damage. The presence of established cardiovascular disease, that is ischemic heart disease or heart failure, cerebrovascular disease, peripheral vascular disease or concomitant disease associated with high cardiovascular disease risks like diabetes or chronic kidney disease. The calculated cardiovascular risk estimates these factors, which include age, gender, smoking history, etc. The reduction of blood pressure of 20 millimeters systolic or 10 millimeters diastolic has been linked with the reduction in death from stroke and ischemic heart disease of about 1/2, slightly more in younger and slightly less in the older people. Achieving reductions in usual diastolic blood pressure of 5, 7.5 and 10 millimeters mercury have been found to be associated with incremental reduction in the stroke, 34% with a 5 millimeter reduction, 46% with a 7.5 millimeter reduction and 56% with a 10 millimeter reduction. And in the coronary artery disease, once again there is this gradient, that is 21% for 5 millimeter reduction, 29% for 7.5 millimeter reduction and 37% for 10 millimeter reduction. The optimum goal of antihypertensive therapy is to prevent atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease and renal complications. Achieving blood pressure reduction reduces cardiovascular risk by 20 to 25% for myocardial infarction, 35 to 40% for stroke, and by 50% for heart failure. However, this alone is not enough. A better protection is needed. A target of 65% risk reduction in hypertensives and 80% of risk reduction in general population is called for. Hypertension accounts for 57% of all stroke deaths and 24% of all coronary heart disease deaths in India. Treatment of high blood pressure alone is not enough to obtain optimum reduction in the associated cardiovascular disease. Cardiovascular disease risk estimation should be done, and cardiovascular risk assessment. Hypertension is one of the major cardiovascular factors. However, blood pressure is not the only determinant of cardiovascular risk. The traditional cardiovascular disease risk factors include age, gender, blood pressure, total cholesterol, high density lipoprotein, smoking, diabetes, family history of cardiovascular disease, microalbuminuria or GFR less than 60 cc per minute, and a sedentary lifestyle and increasing body mass index. Some new risk factors have also been identified, and these include homocysteine, high sensitivity CRP, fibrinogen, triglyceride, glycosylated hemoglobin levels, lipoprotein A, plasma myeloperoxidase, and red cell glutathione peroxidase. In addition, ethnic origin, socioeconomic status, and also use of antihypertensive drugs. There are several calculation tools for cardiovascular disease risk assessment, and these include Framingham risk score, SCORE, ProCam, WHO prediction charts, Reynolds charts, and Q risk charts. In addition, there are many other algorithms to do that. Some of them are Assign, ERIC, Progetto Curor, Personal Heart 2007, ACC/AHA probed cohort questionnaires and equations, Third Joint British Society risk calculator. So the risk assessment could be done in all hypertensive patients, and the modifiable risk factors should be treated appropriately. Cardiovascular risk assessment in Indians. Well, South Asians including Indians have an increased risk of cardiovascular disease as compared to other populations. There is no prospectively validated risk assessment tool for Indians. Presence of any one of or more of the following should indicate high cardiovascular risk, which is more than 20% risk of getting a vascular problem over 10 years. Long-standing diabetes, diabetes with target organ damage or with multiple other cardiovascular risk factors. Additionally, chronic kidney disease, extremes of single risk factor, heavy smoker, strong family history of premature cardiovascular disease, or a lipoprotein little a more than 50 cc per deciliter. Evidence of subclinical atherosclerosis in the form of CCS more than 300 or elevated both carotid intimal medial thickness or presence of a carotid plaque. Estimated 10-year cardiovascular risk of more than 20% by the WHO ISH risk prediction charts or JBS3 risk calculator is preferred. Estimated 10-year cardiovascular risk is 10 to 20% with one or more non-conventional cardiovascular risk factors. For example, obesity, metabolic syndrome, impaired fasting blood glucose, impaired glucose tolerance, and elevated hsCRP. If none of these conditions is present, then a person is considered to be at an intermediate risk, that is 10 to 20% chance of developing a vascular event. If the estimated 10-year cardiovascular risk is 10 to 20%, but there is no apparent non-conventional cardiovascular risk factor, only early evidence of subclinical atherosclerosis is present, or CCS 100 to 290, or only carotid intimal medial thickness is increased and there is no carotid plaque. All diabetics, including those included in the high risk category as mentioned above, those with LP little a between 20 to 49 cc per deciliter, and no other high risk factor. All the other individuals are considered to be at low risk, that is less than 10% risk over the next 10 years. Let us talk about the optimal strategy to reduce cardiovascular risk. Hypertension is associated with several other cardiovascular risk factors, which include the components of metabolic syndrome, endothelial dysfunction, arterial stiffness, and nephropathy. Hypertension is a component of a multifactorial disease process. The optimal strategy to reduce cardiovascular risk in hypertensive encompasses the following: lifestyle modification, improving adherence to the medical therapy, early and aggressive target levels to be achieved, and the drug choice has to be appropriate. It's a very well known and good logical dictum that earlier you reduce the blood pressure, the better it is. Blood pressure reduction drives benefit, and initial reductions tend to determine early cardiovascular disease risk reduction and long-term quality of BP control. Early and aggressive BP control is essential for long-term cardiovascular risk reduction. Now, what are the target blood pressure levels? According to JNC 8, general population, the blood pressure target in less than 60 years of age is below 140 by 90 millimeters. In general population more than 60 years, it is less than 150 by 90. In patients more than 18 years with chronic kidney disease, the target is again less than 140 by 90, and same is the target for patients more than 18 years with diabetes. Coming to ASH and International Society of Hypertension guidelines of 2014, in general, including patients with diabetes and chronic kidney disease, the target should be to achieve pressures less than 140 by 90. More than 80 years, it should be less than 150 by 90. Coming to the Indian guidelines of 2013, young and middle-aged patients, the target should be less than 140 by 90. The blood pressure lowering in diabetics should be little more aggressive, less than 140 by 80. In stroke survivors, it should be even more aggressive. The blood pressure of around 130 by 85 or below is the target. In elderly, the BP target of around 140 to 145 by 90 millimeters should be enough. The Canadian guidelines in general, once again, the blood pressure target should be less than 140 by 90. In non-diabetic chronic kidney disease, again the target is the same. For acute ischemic stroke, once again the Canadian targets are the same, less than 140 by 90. But in diabetics, they recommend a blood pressure less than 130 by 80 millimeters. As per the American Diabetic Association guidelines, general patient with diabetes and hypertension, the blood pressure should be less than 140 by 90. High risk of cardiovascular disease, they should have a blood pressure less than 130 by 80. Pregnant patients with diabetes and chronic hypertension, the blood pressure range could be 120 to 160 systolic by 80 to 105 millimeters. Choice of antihypertensive agent. Choice of antihypertensive therapy must be individualized and customized in order to balance maximal BP control with encouraging patient adherence to treatment regimens and minimizing the unfavorable side effects. The factors that assist physicians in making individual treatment choices are the demographic factors, the cardiovascular risk factors, the condition of the organs, that is the organ damage, the clinical conditions, duration of blood pressure lowering effect of the drug, cost of the treatment, contraindication, and previous patient's expectation with the drug class. As per the JNC 8 guidelines, general non-black population including those with diabetes, thiazide type of diuretics followed by calcium channel blockers and ACE inhibitors or ARBs is the way to choose the drugs. General black population including those with diabetes, ACE inhibitors are never the first line of drug, it should be thiazide diuretic or calcium channel blockers. In patients more than 18 years with a chronic kidney disease, initiate or add on ACE inhibitor or ARB to improve kidney outcomes irrespective of race or diabetes status. As per the American Society of Hypertension and International Society of Hypertension guidelines, when the patient has mainly hypertension, no other associated problem, in the non-blacks less than 60 years, initiate ARBs or ACE inhibitors. If reduced to achieve blood pressure target less than 140/90, add a calcium channel blocker or a thiazide diuretic. If need still be there, then add a combination of calcium channel blocker plus ACE inhibitor or ARB plus thiazide diuretic. Non-black population more than 60 years, initiate calcium channel blocker or thiazide diuretic if needed to achieve blood pressure less than 140/90 millimeters. In that situation, add ARB or ACE inhibitor. If needed still, add combination of ACE inhibitor, calcium channel blocker and a thiazide diuretic. In blacks, initiate always with a calcium channel blocker or thiazide diuretic, and if need be to achieve blood pressure target of less than 140/90, then add a ARB or ACE inhibitor. If needed still, add combination of calcium channel blocker plus ACE inhibitor or ARB and a thiazide diuretic. When a patient has hypertension with associated conditions like diabetes, initiate treatment with ARB or ACE inhibitor. In black patients, acceptable to start with calcium channel blocker or thiazide. Add a calcium channel blocker or thiazide diuretic if needed. In blacks treated with a calcium channel blocker or thiazide, add an ARB or ACE inhibitor if still needed. Add alternative second drug like thiazide or calcium channel blockers. Chronic kidney disease, initiate treatment with ARB or ACE inhibitors in black patients. ACE inhibitors may be initiated in these situations. Add a calcium channel blocker or thiazide diuretic if needed. If still needed, add alternative second drug, that is thiazide or calcium channel blocker. Clinical coronary artery disease, one should always initiate beta blocker plus ARB or ACE inhibitor if needed. And even if heart failure is there, once again beta blocker should be preferred, and if needed calcium channel blocker or thiazide diuretic. If still need be there, then one can add a second step drug. If there is a history of stroke, initiate ACE inhibitor or ARB. If needed, add thiazide diuretic or calcium channel blocker. If needed, still add alternative second drug, that is calcium channel blocker or thiazide. In heart failure patients, ARB or ACE inhibitor plus beta blocker plus diuretic plus spironolactone. One can add dihydropyridine calcium channel blockers, that is like verapamil and diltiazem, if need be for BP control. Coming to the results of SPRINT trial, that is intensive BP control, treatment of hypertension has the potential to reduce the risk of cardiovascular outcomes. Reducing systolic blood pressure levels tend to lower the risk of subsequent complications from cardiovascular disease. Inclusion criteria of this study were age more than 50 years, systolic blood pressure 130 to 180, and an increased risk of cardiovascular event. The trial compared two strategies for systolic blood pressure reduction. One was aimed at standard target of less than 140 millimeters, while the other aimed at a much more intensive target of less than 120 millimeters. Findings from SPRINT trial. The mean systolic blood pressure in the trial was 121.4 millimeters. They could not achieve a target of less than 120 in the intensive treatment arm and around 136 millimeter mercury in the standard treatment arm at 1 year, with an average difference between intensive and the usual treatment group of around 14.8 millimeters mercury. The mean diastolic blood pressure after 1 year was 68.7 millimeters mercury in the intensive treatment group and 76.3 millimeters in the standard treatment group. The mean number of blood pressure medications to achieve the target in intensive treatment group was 2.8 drugs in the intensive one and 1.8 in the standard treatment group. A lower rate of primary composite outcome was observed in the intensive treatment group as compared to standard treatment group. That means there was a overall survival benefit with a much more intensive treatment, of 1.6% per year versus 2.19% per year. In view of this intervention, the Data Safety Monitoring Board terminated this trial early after a median follow-up of 3.26 years instead of going on for 5 years. In the SPRINT trial, all-cause mortality was considerably lower in the intensive treatment group. Among patients with chronic kidney disease at baseline, one did not find a significant difference in the composite outcome of reduction in the eGFR of more than 50% or the development of end-stage renal disease. Among those without chronic kidney disease at baseline, the incidence of the outcome was defined as a decrease in the eGFR of more than 30% to a value of less than 60 cc per minute, and it was higher in the intensive treatment group as compared to the standard treatment group, that is 1.21% per year versus 0.35% per year. There was a price to be paid for very intensive reduction of blood pressure. The rate of serious adverse events included symptomatic hypotension, syncope, electrolyte imbalance, acute kidney injury or failure, but these were not very deleterious. They were higher in the intensive treatment group when compared with the standard treatment group. Among adults with hypertension without diabetes, reducing systolic blood pressure to a target of less than 120 millimeters in comparison with standard target of less than 140 millimeters yielded significantly lower rates of fatal and non-fatal cardiovascular events and death from any cause. However, significantly higher rates of certain adverse events were noted in the intensive treatment group. The results of SPRINT add to the evidence that lowering systolic blood pressure, especially in older patients with hypertension, is highly beneficial. In a commentary by Dr. Krakoff, which was published in American Journal of Hypertension, 3 trials were discussed: the ACCORD, the SPRINT, and the SPS3. The standard BP target for ACCORD and SPRINT was less than 140 by 90, and the lower on treatment goal was less than 120 by 80. For SPS3, the standard goal was a systolic blood pressure range of 139 to 130, and for intensive treatment less than 130. Krakoff stated that less than 140 millimeters mercury but more than 120 millimeters for systolic blood pressure is rapidly becoming the optimal range of blood pressure in the absence of signs of overdosage or overtreatment. Now coming to comorbidities in hypertension. Hypertension and diabetes. There is a significant overlap between diabetes and hypertension, pointing towards a substantial overlap in their etiology and disease mechanisms. Diabetes and hypertension share common pathways, including the sympathetic nervous system, renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system, oxidative stress, adipokinins, insulin resistance, and peroxisome proliferator activated receptors. These pathways interact with each other and give rise to a vicious cycle. Hypertension and diabetes are both end results of a metabolic syndrome. They may develop one after other in the same person. Diabetes and hypertension coexist in nearly 40 to 60% of patients with type 2 diabetes. In India, nearly 50% of diabetic individuals have hypertension. Management of hypertension in diabetics. What are the blood pressure goals in diabetics? According to JNC 8, more than 18 years of age with diabetes, the target is to keep the blood pressure less than 140 by 90. Likewise, the goal as per the ASH and ISH in general, including patients with diabetes, is less than 140 by 90. For patients more than 80 years of age with chronic kidney disease or diabetes, once again the goal is the same: keep the blood pressure less than 140 by 90. According to the Indian guidelines, blood pressure lowering to around 140 by 80 millimeters of mercury in diabetics is recommended. The Canadian guidelines recommend a blood pressure of less than 130 by 80 in diabetics. The American Diabetic Association recommends that general patients with diabetes and hypertension, the pressure should be targeted as less than 140/90, but high-risk patients for cardiovascular disease, the target should be 130/80 millimeters mercury. Pregnant women with diabetes and chronic hypertension, blood pressure could be between 120 to 160 systolic and between 80 to 105 diastolic. American Diabetes Association recommendation for choice of therapy include drug classes known to reduce cardiovascular events in patients with diabetes, and those drugs are ACE inhibitors, ARBs, thiazide-like diuretics, or dihydropyridine calcium channel blockers. Multiple drug therapy is required to achieve target, but not a combination of ACE inhibitor and ARB. This combination is never recommended. Recommended the first line treatment for hypertension in patients with diabetes and urine albumin to creatinine ratio of more than 300 milligrams per gram creatinine or 30 to 299 milligrams per gram creatinine, ACE inhibitor ARB, at the maximum tolerated dosage indicated for BP treatment. If one class is not tolerated, the other class should be started. JNC 8 recommendation for choice of therapy in general non-black population, including those with diabetes, thiazide type diuretic, calcium channel blocker, ACE inhibitor or ARB. In general, the black population, including those with diabetes, start with thiazide diuretic or a calcium channel blocker. Intensive BP control in type 2 diabetes, according to the ACCORD study, blood pressure trial evaluated the effects of targeting systolic blood pressure of 120 millimeters of mercury as compared to 140 among patients with type 2 diabetes at high risk for cardiovascular events. Intensive BP control was not found to reduce the rate of a composite of major cardiovascular events in these patients. According to a recent review by Grossman and Grossman, it was concluded that the available data does not support stringent BP control strategy for all diabetic patients. In elderly diabetic patients more than 80 years of age, blood pressure should be less than 140 to 150/90 and should be monitored closely in the sitting and for standing position, both in sitting and standing position, because of the fear of developing orthostatic hypotension. Treatment should be individualized to prevent excessive fall in systolic blood pressure. Choice of antihypertensive agent. Renin-angiotensin system blockers are usually used as a first line agent. For combination therapy, one can add calcium channel blocker or diuretic agents, which seem to be quite appropriate as second line drugs. Management of hypertension in chronic kidney disease. In India, diabetes and hypertension accounts for nearly 40 to 60% cases of chronic kidney disease. There is a significant relationship of chronic kidney disease with gender. Increasing age, abdominal opacity, smoking, presence of diabetes and hypertension. Results of SEEK study, that is screening for elderly, evaluation of kidney disease studies showed proteinuria in chronic kidney disease in 19% and 23% of hypertensive subjects. Hypertension can be a cause or a consequence of chronic kidney disease. Hypertension is a major factor responsible for decline in kidney function in patients with diabetic and non-diabetic kidney. Additionally, among chronic kidney disease patients, high blood pressure may develop early during the course of disease and contributes to adverse outcomes. Blood pressure goals in patients with chronic kidney disease. As per the JNC 8 2014 criteria, it should be less than 140/90. Same are the guidelines from ASH and ISH, the same, that is less than 140/90. The Canadian guidelines in non-diabetic chronic kidney disease is also recommending blood pressures less than 140/90. Choice of therapy as per the JNC 8 criteria in patients more than 18 years with chronic kidney disease, initiate or add ACE inhibitor or ARB to improve kidney outcomes irrespective of race or diabetes status. As per the ASH criteria, initiate treatment with ARB or ACE inhibitor In black patients, ACE inhibitors may be initiated. Add calcium channel blocker or thiazide diuretic if needed. If still needed, add the alternative second drug like thiazide or calcium channel blocker. The Canadian guidelines suggest that patients with hypertension and proteinuria where urine protein is more than 500 milligrams per 24 hours or albumin to creatinine ratio is more than 30 milligrams per millimole. Initial therapy would be an ACE inhibitor or an ARB if there is intolerance to ACE inhibitors. Thiazide or thiazide-like diuretics may be used as additive therapy. For patients with chronic kidney disease and volume overload, loop diuretics may be necessary. In most cases, combination therapy with other antihypertensive agents might be needed to reach target blood pressure levels. The combination of an ACE inhibitor and ARB is never recommended for patients with non-proteinuric chronic kidney disease. Coming to the consensus statement by an expert panel of Indian nephrologists, intensive blood pressure targets are needed in hypertension, though the target need to be individualized. More than 2 to 3 antihypertensive agents may be required to lower blood pressure in patients with chronic kidney disease. Management of hypertension in non-dialysis dependent chronic kidney disease. The blood pressure target in patients with chronic kidney disease is less than 140/90, and in patients with chronic kidney disease and diabetes or with albuminuria, the target is less than 130/80. ACE inhibitors or ARBs ideally in patients with serum creatinine levels less than 3 or calcium channel blockers may be started. If during subsequent visits blood pressure is above this target, the dose of prescribed ACE inhibitor or ARB should be increased to the maximal recommended dosage. The addition of a calcium channel blocker, diuretic, alpha blocker or beta blocker may also be considered. The management of blood pressure in non-dialysis and pre-dialysis chronic kidney disease patients. 130/80 millimeters appears to be a good target. Calcium channel blockers should be initiated to manage hypertension in the absence of proteinuria. In the presence of proteinuria, ARB should be preferred. Renin-angiotensin system blockers should be optimized before increasing the dose of antihypertensive agents. Intensive BP control, although all major guidelines recommend target blood pressure of less than 140/90 millimeters in patients with chronic kidney disease, recent evidence points towards the significance of intensive blood pressure lowering. In the SPRINT trial, targeting systolic blood pressure of less than 120/80 compared to less than 140 millimeters was associated with lower rates of fatal and non-fatal major cardiovascular events and death from any cause. Among subjects with chronic kidney disease at baseline, there appeared to be no significant difference in the number of participants with a reduction in the eGFR of 50% or more or reaching end-stage renal disease over the course of trial between the two intervention groups. There was no evidence of significant permanent kidney damage with lower systolic blood pressure, yet the authors cautioned that the likelihood of a normal adverse renal outcome could not be ruled out. In the African American study of kidney disease and hypertension, the analysis revealed that a lower blood pressure target could retard disease progression in some patients with hypertensive chronic kidney disease. But the evidence for this benefit was limited to patients with a protein to creatinine ratio of more than 0.22 at baseline. Treatment of hypertension in atrial fibrillation. Hypertension and atrial fibrillation can be a common combination. Hypertension, diabetes, obesity, sleep apnea, metabolic syndrome, increasing age, left ventricular hypertrophy, coronary heart disease, heart failure are important risk factors for the development of atrial fibrillation. Hypertension per se heightens the risk of atrial fibrillation by about twofold. Long-standing suboptimal controlled hypertension leads to left ventricular hypertrophy, structural changes and enlargement of the left atrium, heterogeneity of atrial conduction, and fibrosis, all of which may contribute to development of AF. Optimal BP in patients with AF In a post hoc analysis of around 4,000 participants from the AFFIRM study, it revealed that the incidence of all-cause mortality was lowest at 140 by 78. There was an increased ACM observed with blood pressures less than 110 by 60 millimeters mercury. There existed a U-shaped relationship between blood pressure and ACM. Treatment of hypertension with renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system blockade with either ACE inhibitor, ARBs or mineralocorticoid antagonists may reduce the incidence of new or recurrent AF, especially in patients with systolic left ventricular dysfunction or left ventricular hypertrophy. Use of ACE inhibitors or ARBs may reduce the possibility of developing AF and can be used in patients with coexisting AF and hypertension, but is not indicated solely for the prevention of new onset or recurrent AF. Beta blockers are effective for rate control in AF and possibly for maintaining sinus rhythm. Beta blockers may be particularly useful in patients with hypertension and AF with systolic heart failure. Non-dihydropyridine calcium channel blockers such as diltiazem and verapamil are useful to slow the ventricular response in atrial fibrillation. Dihydropyridine calcium blockers reduce the pulse pressure and may have a potential role in AF reduction. Incorporate an ACE inhibitor or ARB into an antihypertensive regime in patients with AF. Add beta blocker or a non-dihydropyridine calcium blocker when the rate control is required. With good renal function and normokalemia, consider a mineraloreceptor antagonist like aldactone, considering that good BP control together with weight and glucose management and preserved oxygenation while sleeping are likely additive in their benefits in atrial fibrillation, particularly after ablation therapy for AF. Treatment of hypertension in heart failure. Hypertension and ischemic heart disease are the two principal causes of heart failure. In the Framingham Heart Cohort study, hypertension antedated the development of CHF in 91% of cases. Hypertension was associated with a 2 to 3-fold increase in the development of CHF after adjusting for age and heart failure risk factors. The prevalence of risk factors of heart failure is rising in India. Besides an increase in the aging population, the prevalence of hypertension is estimated to increase from 118 million in 2000 to 214 million in 2025. The number of new heart failure cases due to hypertension may also increase significantly per year in 2000 to 2014 to about 1.3 million per year in 2025. Conservatively assuming that the majority of patients in hypertension have systolic blood pressure in the range of 144 to 154 millimeters mercury. The recent INDUS study suggested that heart failure prevalence in a rural community as well as tertiary hospital care setting in North India, among the rural adult population, heart failure was present in 9%. All patients with heart failure and preserved ejection fraction had poorly controlled hypertension. Coming to optimal blood pressure in heart failure, for patients with hypertension and preserved left ventricular ejection fraction and asymptomatic LVH, or patients with hypertension and heart failure with a preserved left ventricular ejection fraction, blood pressure should be optimally treated to lower systolic and usually diastolic levels. Target resting level should be less than 130 by 80 if tolerated. The SPRINT trial showed that intensive treatment group had lower rates of important outcomes including heart failure. It was about 40% lower relative risk, death from cardiovascular causes 43% lower relative risk, and death from any cause about 27% lower relative risk. Choice of therapy in the management of hypertension should not be restricted to just BP reduction. Treatment should also target the adverse structural remodeling that leads to hypertensive heart disease. Treatment should target diastolic dysfunction, adverse remodeling, apoptosis, fibrosis, and neurohumoral mediators. Drugs known to effectively include ACE inhibitors, ARBs, endothelin antagonists, aldosterone receptor antagonists. Effective anti-apoptotics include ACE inhibitors, losartan, alpha blockers and calcium channel blockers. The ASH guidelines recommend angiotensin receptor blockers or ACE inhibitors plus beta blocker, diuretic and spironolactone in heart failure patients. A dihydropyridine calcium channel blocker may be added if the BP still needs reduction. The Canadian guidelines recommend the following, that is, in patients with systolic dysfunction, that is ejection fraction less than 40%, ACE inhibitors and beta blockers should constitute the initial therapy. Aldosterone antagonists may be added among those with a recent cardiovascular hospitalization, acute MI, elevated B natriuretic peptide or anti-proBNP or New York Heart Association classification 2 to 4. We must carefully monitor for hyperkalemia when adding an aldosterone antagonist to ACE inhibitor or ARB. Other diuretics may be used as additional therapy if needed. And ARB is recommended if ACE inhibitor is not being tolerated. A combination of hydralazine and isosorbide dinitrate can be used if ACE inhibitor and ARBs are contraindicated or not at all tolerated. For hypertensive patients whose blood pressure is not controlled, an ARB may be added to an ACE inhibitor and other antihypertensive drug treatment. We need to monitor carefully if combining an ACE inhibitor and ARB. We should be monitoring the potassium levels very well, and additional therapies may include dihydropyridine calcium channel blockers. Management of hypertension in stroke. Hypertension in stroke can be a common association. The incidence of stroke in India is much higher than Western industrialized countries. Hypertension is a common risk factor for stroke. In India, the common risk factor of stroke, namely hypertension, diabetes, smoking and dyslipidemia, are not being adequately controlled. Hypertension alone or in various combinations is a major risk factor in ischemic and hemorrhagic strokes. Approximately half of the strokes can be attributed to high blood pressure in both genders and all ages. Individuals with hypertension are 3 to 4 times more likely to have a stroke than normotensives. At a mean diastolic blood pressure of 91 millimeters mercury, the relative risk of stroke is 1, while at a mean diastolic blood pressure of 98 millimeters of mercury, the relative risk is 2, and at a mean diastolic blood pressure of 105, the same relative risk goes up to 4. The relative risk of stroke increases 3 to 5 times with increasing diastolic blood pressure values. A 2 millimeter rise in systolic blood pressure in middle life is associated with 10% increase in the risk of stroke. Presence of hypertension also worsens mortality in stroke. Elevation of 20 millimeter mercury of systolic blood pressure or 10 millimeter mercury of diastolic blood pressure has been linked with over 2-fold increase in stroke death rate. Lowering blood pressure under 140 by 85 millimeters tends to reduce the risk of stroke by 43%. Optimal BP level in stroke. Hypertension, Canadian guidelines, after acute ischemic stroke, the blood pressure should be less than 140 by 90. As per the Indian guidelines, in stroke survivors, the blood pressure target should be around 130 by 85. The intensive treatment group in the SPRINT trial, that is less than 120 millimeters mercury, had a non-significant 11% lower incidence of stroke, although SPRINT excluded persons with prevalent stroke or transient ischemic attacks at baseline. Findings from the China stroke primary prevention trial revealed that among adults with hypertension and without a history of stroke or MI, diabetes or renal function decline, a lower systolic blood pressure of 120 to 130 millimeter mercury as compared with a target systolic blood pressure of 130 to 140 or less than 120 millimeter resulted in lower risk of first stroke. The Hypertension Canada 2017 recommendations suggest that blood pressure management in acute ischemic stroke with an onset up to 72 hours for patients who are not eligible for thrombolytic therapy, treatment of hypertension in acute ischemic stroke or transient ischemic attack should not be routinely undertaken. The extreme blood pressure increases, that is systolic blood pressure more than 220 or diastolic pressure more than 120, may be treated to reduce the systolic blood pressure by approximately 15%, but never more than 25% over the first 24 hours, with gradual reduction thereafter. Avoid excessive lowering of blood pressure, since it may exacerbate existing ischemia or might induce ischemia, particularly in the setting of intracranial arterial occlusion. In patients eligible for thrombolytic therapy, very high blood pressure should be treated concurrently in patients who are being given thrombolytic therapy for acute ischemic stroke in order to reduce the risk of secondary intracranial hemorrhage. Coming to the blood pressure management after acute ischemic stroke. Initiate antihypertensive therapy after acute phase of stroke or a transient ischemic attack. After the acute phase of a stroke, BP lowering treatment is recommended to a target of consistently less than 140/90. Treatment with an ACE inhibitor and thiazide or thiazide-like diuretic combination is always preferred. For patients with stroke, the combination of an ACE inhibitor and ARB is never recommended. BP management in hemorrhagic stroke with an onset up to 72 hours. For patients with intracranial hemorrhage in hyperacute phase, in the first 24 hours, systolic blood pressure reduction to less than 140 should be scrupulously avoided. Choice of therapy medication should be withheld unless the systolic blood pressure is more than 220 millimeters systolic or diastolic more than 120 millimeters. For patients undergoing intravenous thrombolysis for acute ischemic stroke, blood pressure must be reduced and maintained below 185 millimeters systolic for the first 24 hours. The first line drugs for lowering of blood pressure include labetalol, nicardipine, and sodium nitroprusside. So, summarizing, hypertension is a significant public health challenge in both developing as well as developed countries. The increasing prevalence of cardiovascular risk factors like hypertension, dyslipidemia, diabetes, obesity, overweight, physical inactivity, tobacco abuse is contributing to the growing burden of cardiovascular disease. It is therefore timely that we effectively address hypertension in our country. The blood pressure control is suboptimal in India. Only 1/10 of rural and 1/5 of the urban population, the blood pressure is optimally controlled. Blood pressure is a major determinant of cardiovascular disease risk in various populations and settings. The risk of clinical events associated with hypertension is not only determined by blood pressure level, but also by the presence of target organ damage, the presence of established cardiovascular disease, heart failure, concomitant diseases like high prevalence of diabetes or chronic kidney disease, or the calculated cardiovascular risk, which is estimated from several factors like age, sex, smoking history, etc. The optimum goal of antihypertensive therapy is to prevent atherosclerosis, cardiovascular and renal complications, achieve blood pressure reduction, reduce cardiovascular risk by 20% to 25% for myocardial infarction, 35 to 40% for stroke, and by 50% for heart failure. However, this alone is not enough. A better protection is required. Treatment of high blood pressure alone is not enough to obtain optimal reduction in associated cardiovascular disease risk. Cardiovascular disease risk estimation should be done. There are several cardiovascular disease risk assessment tools. However, no prospectively validated risk assessment tool exists for Indians. The optimal strategy to reduce cardiovascular risk in hypertensive patients encompasses lifestyle modification, improving adherence to therapy, early and aggressive target level achievements, and appropriate drug therapy. Early and aggressive BP lowering is essential for long-term cardiovascular risk reduction. There is an urgent need for a paradigm shift in the management of hypertension that focuses on comorbidities such as diabetes, chronic kidney disease, atrial fibrillation, heart failure, and stroke. It is thus important to follow the guideline recommended blood pressure targets and antihypertensive choices to obtain optimal BP control in this population.